All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're taking a close look at a vehicle that's literally making massive waves in the automotive world, the all-new 2026 Rivian R2. Now, if you follow the EV space at all, you already know Rivian builds some of the absolute most desirable electric trucks and SUVs on the planet. But, until now, buying into that whole adventure lifestyle meant getting a vehicle that was pretty massive in size and, honestly, pretty massive in price, too. So the R2 is a really huge deal because it finally brings that awesome Rivian experience to a much more accessible size and price point.
Okay, let's dive into this and just quickly look at our roadmap. First up, we're covering the affordable Rivian era. Then we'll check out some exterior quirks and features, followed by a look at its clever, roomy interior. After that, we'll see exactly how it's built for adventure, and we'll wrap things up with performance and our final verdict.
All right, Section 1, the affordable Rivian era.
To really get what the R2 is all about, we kind of have to look at Rivian's overall strategy, right? Their first vehicles, the R1T and the R1S, they were these massive, pricey flagship models. But the R2, it's designed for a way wider audience. And the absolutely crucial point here is this number, an estimated starting price of $45,000. When you compare that to the nearly $80,000 base price of the larger R1S, it's night and day. This is a significantly more affordable entry point that just completely reshapes who can actually think about buying a Rivian.
But, of course, that affordability means a change in footprint. Looking at the exact dimensions, the R2 is about 15 inches shorter than the R1S, roughly 2,000 pounds lighter, and they drop the third row. So if you're trying to picture this thing sitting in your garage, it fits perfectly right between a Honda CR-V and a Tesla Model Y. It's basically hitting that mid-size sweet spot, which makes it incredibly manageable for daily driving and, squeezing into tight parking lots.
Moving right along to Section 2, exterior quirks and features.
So right off the bat, the R2 definitely keeps that signature, muscular, boxy Rivian look. It's got those distinct oval running lights we all recognize. Honestly, it almost looks like an R1S that got scaled down to maybe 7/8 the size. And that boxy design, it's completely intentional. Rivian literally said they designed the R2 to be an antidote to the boring teardrop shapes of competitors. Instead of just copying those identical slope designs everyone else uses to eke out aerodynamics, which totally kills your visibility, by the way, Rivian went for something upright, aggressive, and glassy. It really stands out.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how clever that exterior design really is. Okay, get this. The R2 has this trick roll-down rear window in the tailgate. You just tap a button and the glass drops completely down into the door. It's amazing for letting a breeze in. But because that window rolls down, they obviously couldn't mount the rear wiper on the glass anymore. So, Rivian actually hid the wiper below the window, and since water naturally collects in that little hidden housing, they engineered a special aero drain that routes the rainwater right out below the taillight. How smart is that? On top of that, there's a new fold-over hood designed specifically for European pedestrian safety, since this is going to be a global car. Add in a genuinely useful automatic opening front trunk, plus classic Rivian Easter eggs like a little gear guard guy hiding on the windshield trim and a literal maze molded into the charge port door, and you've got a vehicle absolutely packed with personality.
All right, Section 3, a clever, roomy interior.
Stepping inside, what's really interesting is what the interior tells us about Rivian's whole approach here. It honestly doesn't feel like they cut corners to hit that $45,000 price tag. The materials are shockingly high quality, but check this out. Right in the center console, beneath the dual glove boxes, there's a pull-out drawer sized perfectly for a standard tissue box. Why? Well, direct customer feedback. Owners literally asked for a place to put their tissues, and Rivian engineered it into the car. That is just the textbook definition of actually listening to your buyers.
And the steering wheel, a massive leap forward in usability. It features these two really nice, large, multifunctional scroll discs. So you roll them up and down to change volume or media. You pull them toward you to change up your gauge cluster views. But here is the real magic. Push them side to side and you can adjust your climate-controlled temperature and fan speed directly from the wheel. Yes! No more digging through a massive touchscreen menu while you're driving just to turn down the AC. It is such a brilliant tactile solution. The rest of the tech and packaging in here is just stellar. Up top, there's a 5X button. Press it, and it instantly drops all 4 door windows, plus that rear tailgate window for an immediate open-air feel. Down on the dash, hitting your turn signal pulls up a live blind spot camera feed right in your gauge cluster. The main screen is super snappy, and it has these clever overlay menus so you can control your music over the 3D map without losing your navigation screen. But maybe the craziest part is the space. A 6'4" adult can fit super comfortably in the back seat, completely avoiding any weird floor humps. Plus, the rear center seat folds down completely independently. That means you can slide skis or lumber right down the middle and still have 2 comfy passengers in the back. It's a total marvel of packaging, especially when you remember it still has a massive front trunk.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, Built for Adventure. So, moving to the cargo area, the R2 proves it is definitely not just a grocery getter. Fold those seats down and you unlock this incredibly cavernous space. In fact, Rivian specifically designed the length of this area so a 95th percentile male can lay completely flat inside to sleep. Think about that. With their custom mattress accessory, you can literally turn the back of your SUV into a perfectly flat, climate-controlled cabin for the night. And that is just scratching the surface of this wild accessory ecosystem they've got going on. The R2 is fully compatible with their existing quick-release roof racks for sure. But they're also launching this brand new rooftop tent that hooks directly into the vehicle to pipe climate-controlled air and lighting right up into the tent. How cool is that? Want to watch a movie out in the woods? No problem. There's a vehicle-mounted projection screen. But okay, my absolute favorite feature. Rivian is offering a power adapter that plugs directly into the outside charge port to give you traditional household outlets. And they proudly point out that this thing pulls enough power from the battery to inflate an entire child's bouncy house out in the middle of a field. That is simply incredible. All right, let's wrap things up with Section 5, Performance and Final Verdict.
So, we've talked price, tech, and space. But how does this smaller Rivian actually feel on the road? Well, to get that, you kind of have to understand the bones of the car. The big R1S uses a heavy-duty, truck-like body-on-frame construction. The new R2, though, it uses a much lighter, unibody construction, way more like a modern crossover. When you combine that lighter platform with really tight, precise steering, the R2 completely drops that lumbering truck feel and trades it for a surprisingly athletic, energetic driving experience. It's fantastic in corners.
And the numbers on the top-tier Launch Edition are just jaw-dropping. We're talking 655 horsepower, 610 pound-feet of torque, and a 0 to 60 time of just 3.6 seconds. That is incredibly fast. But it definitely hasn't forgotten its off-road routes either. The R2 boasts 9.7 inches of ground clearance. Just to put that into perspective for you, a Tesla Model Y sits at about 6.6 inches. So the R2 gives you a massive advantage when it comes to riding high and clearing rocks or trail obstacles. Taking all of this into account, the renowned automotive reviewer Doug DeMoro actually gave the R2 a highly impressive 70 out of 100 on his famously strict scoring scale. And looking at the data, it completely dwarfs average rivals in its class. In fact, he even stated that it is quite possibly the best all-around electric vehicle he's ever driven, trailing only its bigger, vastly more expensive older sibling, the R1S. It genuinely just seems to nail that perfect balance of speed, family hauling, off-road chops, and smart tech. Which really just leaves us with this final question to ponder. Does the mix of a $45,000 starting price, 3.6-second speed, and just completely unmatched adventure practicality make the Rivian R2 your next dream EV? Because honestly, it's an unbelievable package that is absolutely going to shake up the market when it hits the streets. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the R2, and we'll catch you on the next explainer.